Now, on to our next story. The call for a new constitution has been received with mixed reactions. Members of Fix the Country have for some time now been pushing for a total overhaul of the 1992 constitution, saying it has outlived its relevance. The group has actually started a campaign to gather 1 million votes to aid its cause. This morning on the AM show, this campaign was put to the test. Lawyer Bobby Banson, renowned HR practitioner Dr. Hazel Amwa, and political scientist Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante all shared what they think should be changed in the 1992 constitution.
I think first and foremost, what we would have to see change is the mindset of the political elite.
All right.
We would not have much of a problem as a people if, despite the failings, as it were, as we are calling some of the provisions in the constitution, the mindset of those in office, as you rightly put it, is that of a servant nature. And so imagine the legislature saying, members of Parliament saying that, listen, we feel the hunger in our constituencies. We know our people do not have food, they do not have water, they do not have schools. And so we would refuse to take increment in salaries, or even though the executive is proposing it. Imagine the president saying that all members of his government should not take salary increment for 4 years, or whatever money that would have been used for salary increment. Each member of his government should use it for a particular project. We do not have to wait for a pandemic to say that we are refusing increment in wages or we are not taking salaries. Majority of Ghanaians are suffering. We live under the below the minimum wage capital. And so if those in government have the means to make life better for us, I think if they start from that end, there will be a less clamor for a change in the constitution. Because as has been said, the most important thing is the fact that we do not see development. We only see the provisions in the constitution being used to better the stakes of those who are in office. So if the constitution remains as it is, but we see development in the hands of the ordinary Ghanaian, then there will be less clamor. Singapore has had the same constitution for over 60 years or 50 years. They've never, they have a national development plan that, irrespective of the political party in power, you cannot change it. And so I was there sometime and I didn't even know they were having elections. There was no rally, nothing. Because what is the new thing you are going to say? Everything that you would do has already been set out for you long ago. So I think that beyond that, we should focus on the national development plan. And instead of changing, then we have the National Development Commission. So instead of changing the constitution of that commission every 4 years or whenever there's a change of political office, I think that it should also be given that level of independency so that they come up with the long-term agenda made up, which will be agreed upon from all persons from the political divide. Every person should contribute. Let us give our politicians the agenda that they must follow, so that when we vote you into office, one party cannot come and say that Vision 2020, and another party will come and say that Ghana Beyond Aid, which is which. And so if we have a national development plan that is set up by the National Development Commission, which exists without any political interference, and say that we are giving ourselves 25 or 30 or 50-year national development plan, which cannot be amended by any political party without a referendum.
I would strongly recommend that in reviewing the constitution, doesn't mean we are changing the constitution, but let's at least have a second look at the constitution, page by page, in the current context, look at what is working, and see how we can, learn from how multinationals are working, how corporate institutions are surviving and getting accountability for resources and getting things done. I'm not sure if we go that route, we will actually fail. So a review is important. But who are those reviewing the constitution? I would even open it up to say beyond legal brains. Let's bring the political scientists, the corporate brains, and other people who are quite well read, that in reviewing the constitution, if you're looking at how we review compensation of all civil servants, let's have a guideline that says it's about cost of living adjustments, about inflation as a major guideline. And once upon a time or once in a while, let's review the whole salary structure to say that Where are the gaps, and why do we have these gaps? And does it make sense to have these gaps? Because when there is dissatisfaction and people are upset about conditions of service, there's an uproar. And we're sitting on a time bomb that we have to bear mindful of.
Strictly speaking, I think that provision that calls for the president appointing people as MMDCs must go. It must go straight away, so that we will elect the people who will be the leaders in the constituency. That is a big impediment when we are looking at development from the grassroots. So currently, if you look at the constitutional architecture, there are a lot of powers in the hands of the president. One way by which we can beat it down is through that area. There is also that law that touches on the winner-takes-all system, which I think we should take a second look at that issue and get it fixed. You touch on the issue of Council of State. I have a different view.
All right.
I believe that that body must be scrapped and then put or established as a second chamber. If you look at the wealth of the caliber of people and their wealth of experience, the best place to put them as a second chamber, where they can go there as people who have not been elected or appointed. And we have examples all over the world. The British House of Lords is a typical example where you have these retirees who are experienced people who can go and shape laws for the country. Because currently, when you look at the Council of State, it's just an advisory body. And I believe that if we want to make the best out of this group of people that we have, we should put them as a second chamber. We'll put them in a second chamber so that they can really give us their last national service for this country.